All right, happy Tuesday, class. This is April the 28th, 2020. As always, I am your professor, Dr. Jace Austin, and welcome to week 14. Yes, that is right, week 14 of 7314, which is your reference sources and services class. We are almost there, folks. So it's a 15-week course, and we are on week 14, and from there, just one more week. So I'm going to check in with you next week. And then after that, I don't know. If you don't take another class with me again, then I'll just say it was wonderful having you. And if you do take a class with me in the future, as always, you know you are welcome to and always invited into one of my classes. And I would love to have you in the future. By the way, if you ever need recommendation letters or anything of that nature, also, you know who you can reach out to. You can also reach out to your other professors and they might have a little bit better of a handle on writing than me. So, pick your poison, but we are here to help you. Anyway, there are not a lot of things to go over as far as course updates are concerned. I was very happy with the attendance that I got for Dustin Koopman's session last week. And from there, no more live sessions. You guys got through it. We've only got one assignment left that's due, and that is the semester-long project, which you all should have hopefully been doing this entire time. You do, if you haven't finished your discussion prompts and they're still open, you can go ahead and finish those. But aside from that, the semester-long project is all you have to worry about. So, just get it done, get it turned in, and breathe a sigh of relief, because this has been an insane semester. Been a very stressful, very scary semester, but at the end of the day, we are a resilient species and we're going to come out on top. Anyway, what we're going to do today is talk about some newspaper sources, and from there, because we don't have a lot of updates, we are just going to get back on the discussion boards and make sure that we are current in the class. So anyway, let's talk about newspaper sources. And I'm a former newspaper reporter, so newspaper sources are kind of my forte, I would say. This is something that I'm really interested in, and so I want to help you know how to navigate some of the newspaper sources that you have available to you here at Mizzou, as well as some other newspaper sources. So let's get into it. Pause. All right, folks, so the first thing that you're going to want to know is that if you are looking for your newspaper sources from the Missouri Library website, which I hope you all know by now is library.missouri.edu, when you are on the library's homepage, you can actually go to Looking For and select Database. And when you select Database, you can look for this tab that says Databases by Type. And this is what you see here, newspaper articles. Go ahead and select that, and you will be brought to this page that will show you some of the different newspaper sources that are available here through Mizzou. Now, what I am going to say to you is some of these you're not going to come in contact with very often. A lot of these things you probably won't even come in contact with unless you are working with graduate students or you're working with history students who need primary sources. And articles in newspapers are generally considered to be primary sources. But let's take a look at what we've got here. First of all, one thing that I would like for you all to keep in mind is that there are going to be times when there are very high profile newspapers, your Wall Street Journal, your New York Times, your Washington Post. These newspapers are actually so important that they are able to kind of price themselves out of those catch-all databases, and they work as standalone databases. So as you can see here, what we've got in the screen right in front of us, we've got ProQuest historical papers. I don't know that I want the historical those. So let's see. All right. So, and depending on what institution you're at, this is going to be a little different. So what we've got going on here at Mizzou, we do have a historical database for the Wall Street Journal, and this covers 1889 through 2002. So if you were to go in here, let's say you wanted to use the Wall Street Journal, you can select this option. And let's say you are looking for something within these date ranges here. All right, there it is. So things you need to kind of consider are, first of all, when you're searching newspaper articles, a lot of times the subject classifications actually aren't going to be as effective for searching as things like document title. So let's say that I was in the Wall Street Journal looking for something about Revlon. In these particular ProQuest newspaper databases, a lot of times instead of searching by subject, because Revlon could be your subject, you might be looking for something with Revlon in the title. And that too would likely be quote unquote about Revlon. So as you can see, I put Revlon document title search. And so I have a lot of results here, almost 500 results. And we're going by the decade. We do stop in 2002. Now, if I apply this filter for 2000 to 2002, we've got 3 years there and 31 articles that have Revlon in the full text. So, or I mean, in the title. And so you can click on any of these and you'll be brought to this PDF of the full text right here. And as you can see, you've got options to download. The citation tool, remember, citation tools are only accurate about 80% of the time. And again, that sounds good, but that means that if you have a 10 source paper, that means that there's a good chance that you have 2 sources that are formatted incorrectly in the citation style you need. And then you have email, print, and other options. So this is how you can access these older issues of the Wall Street Journal up to 2002. So I know what y'all are saying. Dr. Jace, up to 2002, but it's 2020. You have left us without 18 years of coverage. I understand these concerns, and I got you covered. So when you need that Wall Street Journal article and it came out after 2002, here's what you're gonna do. Newspaper articles, and what you do, you can scroll down here, and as you can see, actually I'm going to do my little Control F here. That's not the one we wanted right there. But you can see U.S. Newsstream has titles such as, and there it is, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and other major regionals like the Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, and the LA Times and Boston Globe. So if you're looking for more recent issues of these newspapers. Now again, as some institutions, ProQuest basically sells these newspaper titles as standalone if they are these major papers for like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Washington Post. So at my previous job, I don't think we had a subscription to the, well, yeah, we had a subscription to all 3. We had the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal as standalone databases. Now here you're going to get those things from US Newsstream. So remember when Dr. J has told you, working reference is different no matter where you go, and that's why it's so hard to teach reference, because every institution has its own little nuances. It has more commonly asked questions, less commonly asked questions, more commonly used databases, and less commonly used databases. But I try to generalize this as much as possible. And as you can see here, once we go into that database, we can switch this to publication title, and then we can type in Wall Street Journal here. Now, I'm just going to limit this to dates, last 7 days. And then I'm just going to click search so you can see that this is up to date. So this is going all the way, and I'm recording this on April the 28th, 2020. And as you can see, content from today's issue is already in there. But you will get some historical stuff. So if I change this to, I don't know, like the last 3 years, then you're going to see some things. I'm going to search again. And as you can see, we have things going all the way back to 2017. And you can enter a date range of your choice if you wish, okay? So entering date ranges as well as document type, subject, and so forth, all of these limiting options are going to be on the left of the screen, which is similar to what we saw in our EBSCO databases, okay? Now, one thing that you are also possibly going to want to do, if I can get back to my home page, is, actually, I don't see the option here, so let me go back into another database and show you all what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's what Dr. Jace needed to show you as far as, again, letting you know that reference is going to work a little bit differently depending on what institution you go to. And I actually work for both Mizzou and UMKC, so that means I have to keep up with 2 institutions and 2 sets of libraries and whatnot. What I wanted to show you all is not in the Mizzou version of Wall Street Journal, but in the Eastern version of Wall Street Journal at UMKC. We do have this, and some other institutions will have this as well. So this is what I want to show you. So I've already done this search, found the Wall Street Journal Eastern Edition, 1984 to present. I'm going to click that. Now, this takes me right back into ProQuest, but as you can see, the landing page looks just a tad bit differently. And now I also have a little option here for create alerts. So you're going to want to find your create alerts option no matter what institution you work for, because there are going to be some students who like to have alerts that they are tracking a company throughout an entire semester, for instance. So as you can see here, January the 2nd, 1984 to present, send this alert either when the citation abstract or the full text is available, or only when the full text is available. I'm actually going to click this second option for the full text. I'm going to send it to myself, Austin J at umkc.edu in this particular instance. Subject. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is put in the terms that I want the alert for. So I'm just going to be silly right now, put in my own name. And then if I end up in the Wall Street Journal, I should know it. And you can keep these alerts going 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, a year, all of these various options. I'm just going to do it for 2 weeks since I'm showing this for demonstration purposes. And there you go with create alerts. So now if my name, Jason Austin, appears in any Wall Street Journal article, and I hope that's not going to happen because there's no need for me to be in that paper. Hopefully if you see Jason Austin in the Wall Street Journal, it is another one, because there are other people with my name. But now in the next 2 weeks, if there is any article that comes out that has Jason Austin in the full text, I'm going to get that article in my inbox, and it allows me to not keep having to come back to this database. So there are students who use this, so it would be very wise of you to also find out where the alert system is in your particular database, well, your particular version of the Wall Street Journal database or New York Times or whatever newspapers are offered through ProQuest, and make sure that you know how to create those alerts for when that comes. Now, while we're on that subject, I do just want to, and I'll show you all, do just want to let you know you can also create alerts on Google. And so I've done that here for some various things that I have to monitor. So know that, okay? So if you ever want to do that, it's very easy to do, and it's alerts.google.com. All right. Now, let's take a look at some other newspaper sources. Pause. All right, so another article that you should have, another database that you should have handy and ready to use in your toolkit of newspaper sources is going to be this guy right here, Access World News. I've seen academic libraries have it. I'm accessing it through Mid-Continent Public Library. I don't believe Mizzou has it, even though they do have something very similar, but you do find this quite often in a lot of public libraries as well. So Access World News. The reason why Access World News is such a good tool is because this is where you can find your small town newspapers. And that is something that can be, well, it can just create quite a dilemma. If you don't know where to actually look for your very small town newspapers, it can be hard to kind of find out. So I'm going to tell you where to go. And one of those places would be Access World News if your institution has access. So one thing that you can do, and I'm only going to do this for the sake of time, I'm only going to do one thing. But if you were to select the map option, and I'm going to show that to you all again. So from this landing page, you have this option for map search. And for map search, go to North America. And let's say you're looking for some small town paper in, I should probably be using Missouri as an example. However, I'm not very familiar with the geography of Missouri still. And if this map doesn't load, then it doesn't matter anyway. There we go. So we can pick USA. And from USA, we'll be given a list of states, or actually a map of the states. And I'm going to pick my home state, North Carolina. Come on and raise up. Okay. And this map is loading super slow. So I am actually going to come over here. As you can see, you also have the ability to check particular states on the left side of the screen. So I'm going to check that, click for my 112 sources, and as you can see, there are lots and lots and lots of newspapers here. Okay. Now, the biggest daily newspaper to my hometown is this thing right here, the Henderson Daily Dispatch, which I actually used to report for in Henderson, North Carolina. So I'm going to pick that. And first of all, some things that you may find interesting is that you can actually pick an issue, pick a date, and look at everything about that issue. So they had a paper come out, I don't know what's going on with the 27th there because I don't think they print on Monday. But let's go to the 24th here. Let's go to the Friday. It's trying. All right, so now we've got this loaded. Everything that you see here is stuff that actually appeared in the April 24th edition of the Henderson Daily Dispatch. And you have 6 news items, 6 obituaries as well. I do not see any op-eds or any sports, so that is what it is. But here we go. So you can select this, and from there, you just have your full text right there. Okay. And it can be downloaded, printed, emailed, all your various options. You have your icons at the top in this particular database. Now, another thing that you can do is we can go back out, and for our Henderson Daily Dispatch, it loads so slow, and I'm so sorry, y'all, but it's coming, it's coming. I think this virus has a lot of people in the building, and so the bandwidth I think that Spectrum is dealing with is not as optimal as it used to be. But let's also say we wanted to search something, and I'm egotistical enough that I'm just going to search my name. You can select a field if you want. I'm not going to do that, but if you were looking for a particular author, then you would definitely select this author byline thing. Again, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to click search. She is slow. She is slow. But she is coming. There we go. All right. So as you can see here, okay. All of these things that come up are things that either have the text Jason Alston in them or were authored by a person named Jason Alston, which in this case would be me. Okay, so got all that going on there. And again, you've got your full text, and likewise, you have your options, okay? So that's definitely one that you want to keep in your toolkit for newspaper articles. I'm going to look at a few more things, and then I'm going to tell you to do your self-directed learning if your curiosity has been piqued. Pause. All right, so the database that we're looking right now is called Newspaper Source. And this is something that is offered by Mizzou, as you can see up here, University of Missouri, Columbia. Now, again, you are possibly going to be able to search by publication title here. Let's do something other than one of these very major papers. Let's see if we've got the Richmond Times-Dispatch as a journal name. That we do. Okay, so I'm actually going to just select this one right here. This definitely appeared in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, which is our listed source. You have your full text here, and like with most EBSCO databases, you have your various options over here. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and just, again, stay in this source, you could click this link here, and we are only going until 2010 on the Richmond Times-Dispatch in this database, I see. So Mizzou has coverage from 1990, at least in EBSCO, they've got coverage from 1997 until 2010. But the way that I just showed you how World Access News can be kind of a catch-all, I prefer World Access News to Newspaper Source by EBSCO, but in a pinch, Newspaper Source by EBSCO can be effective in finding some things that you want that are not in major papers. Just double check and see what kind of coverage your institution has, because like I said earlier, different institutions are going to have different levels of coverage. So there you go there. And then there are, just to show this to you very quickly, I am probably not actually going to go into any of these, but because we are, that is not what I meant to do. No worries, we've got other options. So, all right, what we got here, databases by type as usual, and newspaper articles. So, you have all these other options. You have Factiva, you have Newsbank, but then you also get some more niche things. So, for instance, African American communities, that will include some of your historical Black newspapers and that sort of thing. Business Source Premier, you can, I think, find some things with the Wall Street Journal in there as well. But business-oriented newspapers, that is a place to go to get those types of things. And we've talked about Business Source Premier before. And then you have other historical newspaper databases. Here you've got one from the Civil War, Chronicling America, Historic American Newspapers, and the Chicago Defender, which is a historically Black newspaper there. And then you have a Times Digital Archive. So you have those types of options, and then I'm going to go to Mid-Continent and just show you all this again. So if people are in one thing that a lot of people, when they come into specifically a public library, this happens quite a bit as people are coming in doing genealogy research. And part of doing genealogy research, for those of you who have not done it, includes looking for obituaries. So you will have some public libraries, including Mid-Continent, that will have databases for obituaries, like you see here. Also have some genealogy assistance there. And then they have also some other niche newspapers. One thing that I mentioned in this class before is that Mizzou does not have very good coverage of the Kansas City Star, even though Mizzou is the flagship institution of Missouri, and the Kansas City Star is a major city newspaper within Missouri. I have heard the library side of the story. I have not heard the Kansas City Star side of the story. So I don't know who's to blame for that, and I'm just going to leave that alone. But I will say that if you need the local newspaper of any city, one place that you might want to start with is their public library homepage. So one of the only places you're going to get the Kansas City Star is actually going to be the public libraries in the Kansas City area. Mid-Continent, Johnson County, Kansas City Public, these types of places. But then when it comes to even UMKC, because like I've said before, I work at UMKC. UMKC does not have the Kansas City Star, which is actually a little embarrassing. But again, UMKC and the Kansas City Star could not come to an agreement for offering that archive, and I don't think Mizzou was able to either. So we have to rely on the public libraries for that in this case. However, this is uncommon. So a lot of times the college libraries will indeed have the local print newspapers and archives if there is an archive available, which there is for the Kansas City Star. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there. We are at 30 minutes. And so from there on, if you have any questions, of course, you can email me. And from here, let's do some self-directed learning. If you're curious, find out what news sources are available at Mizzou and also at your local public library. But that's it from me. This has been Dr. J's Peace and Grace. I am out. Thank you.